Good afternoon. I'm sorry that the implied in time of the little title sequence there doesn't match the actual time that I'm doing this with this week, but hopefully this will give people a chance to watch it who would otherwise be in bed because of time zones. So I'm going to do a couple of things a bit different this week. Firstly, I'm going to have like a theme, a topic to talk about, just to make the stream a bit more focused and less random. Now, it's quite a broad topic. I'm going to just be telling you the story about how I got into Cambridge. People keep asking me to do this, so this is not necessarily going to be advice and telling you what you should do, but rather just telling you what I did. I'll start with GCSE, talk about choices, results, A Levels, work experience, interviews, all of that stuff. I'll be talking about that over the next hour. And since this is a live stream, of course, you can ask me questions along the way. And the second thing I'm going to try is a different way to ask questions. The last 2 weeks have seen hundreds of comments in like the comment bit to go with the video on the YouTube watch page, and it is impossible for me to answer everything. So in an attempt to kind of separate some good questions from general chat, I'm going to suggest that you use Twitter. This was actually a suggestion from this Twitter user here. And we're going to use the hashtag AskJake. Now this is already used a little bit by someone, which is not surprising because Jake is a very popular name, but we're going to hijack it for the next hour. And with some luck, if you use this hashtag, your tweet will appear here in the stream. Now, I haven't been able to test this yet because nobody has said #AskJake today. So I don't know if it'll work. We'll see. That's the plan. And this will hopefully make it easier for people watching this after the event later on, just the recorded version. Hopefully it'll make it easier for those people to see what I'm replying to if the tweet that I'm talking about is in the stream, as opposed to me replying to a comment. But I will still be reading all of the comments that you guys leave with the video, so don't worry about having to use Twitter. I look at both. I'm just giving you a new option there. Okay, so before I get started, let's just answer some questions that people are asking already. Yes, that is half an iMac you can see up there. That's what I was streaming with the last few weeks, but now I'm able to use my MacBook, which it doesn't sound happy about. The fans are going like full speed in this thing, so I'm sorry if you can hear those. What I can do though is stream in slightly better quality. I think we've got 480p instead of 360p this week. We're moving up. But the iMac was what I was using, not using it anymore, so I just moved it out the way and put it up there. If you don't have a Twitter account, then don't use Twitter. I'll just answer your question from the comment, just like I did there. Okay, so I have some notes to help me along with this. And I have TweetDeck opened with notifications and a search for Ask Jake, and I've got, okay, I think I'm ready to start talking. So I'm going to start with GCSEs, because I don't think talking about anything prior to GCSEs will be very useful or interesting. So I didn't do loads of GCSEs. Some people end up doing like 15 or something. I did 8. That was basically just because my school didn't offer many. They just didn't have us do many. Oh, apparently we have some tweets in the stream. My TweetDeck search for Ask Jake is not working, but the stream is showing something. What we got? So I knew something would go wrong with this. I can test everything else with the stream. I've spent the last half hour just testing the audio, and I have like a delay on the audio so it matches so it's in sync with the video. I hope that's worked out well. But I could never test the tweets because I didn't have anyone to tweet #AskJake. And I can't read them, they're too small. I apologise for all of the technical problems I have when I'm trying to stream. Oh, I've got a condition on that it has to have at least one favourite. I don't want that. There we go. Okay, I can read them now. So back to GCSEs, I did 8. My results were 5 A stars and 3 A's, and the A stars were in maths, science, additional science. I did that version rather than 3 separate sciences, so I only got 2 GCSEs out of science, music, and English literature. And my A's were in English. No, I've done that wrong. English language, I got the A star in. The A's were in English literature, French, and business and communication systems, which is a stupid course which we had to do because my school was a specialist business and enterprise school, something like that. So I did 8. I also did ICT, but it wasn't a GCSE, it was an OCR national award thing. Didn't really count towards much. The ones I chose, we got some options. We got 2 options, a grand total of 2. I chose ICT and music. All of the others I had to do. I chose music just because I enjoyed it. I've always liked playing the piano. I've always thought the best thing to do is just choose subjects you enjoy, because then you naturally do well at them and you don't hate your life while you're trying to study for them. Same with ICT. I didn't really need it. It wasn't a particularly useful lesson, but I kind of liked it. And it was fairly easy as well, I found. So that's what I did at GCSE. I ended up with 5 A stars, 3 A's, and whatever I got from ICT. That was enough to get me into 6th form. I went to a different school for 6th form because my secondary school didn't have a 6th form. So there I chose 4 AS levels, as people usually do. I chose maths, further maths, physics, and computing. And then it was a Catholic school, so we had to do some form of RE as well. And I got the choice of doing just a general RE lesson that didn't count towards anything, or doing an A level in it and doing philosophy and ethics. I think the subject was religious education or religious studies, and the modules we did were philosophy of religion and religious ethics, and I really enjoyed that. So they were the 5 subjects that I started doing at the beginning of 6th form. Now let me just jump back a little bit. I'll talk about A levels a bit more soon. I'm sorry, I'm getting loads of questions here, and I don't want to jump too far away from what I'm talking about. I'll get to the tweets very soon. I'll try to anyway. So, people probably wonder whether the choices they make at GCSE level and for A levels are really important, and it kind of depends. It's hard to give answers for things like this. Your GCSE choices, I don't think, matter too much in terms of giving you a good chance of getting into Cambridge. Obviously music is... I don't think that's particularly well known to be a great subject to do to then study computer science. I just did it because I enjoyed it, and as long as you're obviously going to do maths and science and English and the more obvious subjects like that and get good grades in those, I think you're allowed to do some different things. When I was doing GCSEs, I already knew what I wanted to study at university. I decided on computer science when I was about 14, maybe, years old. And I didn't really consider many other things. I just stuck with that idea of doing computer science. I just got that into my head that that's what I wanted to do. So I all throughout GCSEs and A levels, I knew that I was going to do computer science at university. I decided on Cambridge after I went on a visit to Cambridge in year 10, I think. So I was 15. I got the chance to go to Cambridge and stay for a night in Jesus College, and this was through an Aim Higher initiative. Now, this aim higher is, I've got a quote from Wikipedia, I think here. It is an initiative aimed at widening participation in UK higher education, particularly among students from non-traditional backgrounds, minority groups, and disabled persons. So, lots of schools around the area got a chance to send a couple of students to Jesus College for a night. I'm not really sure if this is still happening. I assume it is, and I assume there's some kind of opportunity to do this regardless of where you are in the country. I'd like to think there is anyway. So I spent a night in Jesus College. I went with one other person from my school and a coach full of people from other schools nearby. And I just loved Cambridge. I fell in love with the city and really wanted to study there. So that was in the middle of my GCSEs. I already knew I wanted to do computer science. I decided I wanted to do it at Cambridge. So then it came to picking my A Levels, and to do computer science you need maths, and then to do computer science at Cambridge you need further maths, and then physics is quite an obvious and common choice to do. They want you to do a science. Physics is, I enjoyed physics, it was a good choice. Then I had a fourth one to choose, so I chose computing. Not because you need to do computing or any sort of computer science before studying it at university, because you don't. I did it because I wanted to. It would have probably been better to do like chemistry, but I hated chemistry. I wanted to do something that I'd enjoy and not find too difficult, because I already had a fair amount of work from the other three subjects and then from philosophy and ethics. So I chose computing. I'm glad I did it. I really enjoyed that subject. It wasn't massively useful in terms of teaching me stuff that I've needed to know for the degree, because they do teach it from the ground up when you do it at degree level, because not everyone has the opportunity to study it before going to university. But I enjoyed computing anyway, and I don't regret taking it. Again, I'm all for choosing subjects that you want to do rather than subjects that look good on a personal statement. Obviously you need to find some balance in between. You can't just do like photography and music and geography and then study computer science. But I think for my fourth option, computing was okay, especially for computer science. You can't complain about doing computing if you want to do computer science. Towards the end of the first year of sixth form, some of the upper sixth students, when they were applying to universities, they realised they didn't have enough UCAS points, some of them, to get into the universities that they wanted to do. So the head of sixth form came up with a plan to let them do critical thinking, which is an A-level course. I think it's generally regarded as one of the softer subjects. It's easier to do, it doesn't take as much work. And that would give them extra UCAS points and help them to make their offers. And he offered it to my year as well. Obviously we were still quite far away from applying to university and getting offers. But he said, does anyone want to do it? I'm going to be teaching this class. You can if you want. So I said yes, so I ended up doing critical thinking, and I did the full AS and A2 all at once. We only had a month of lessons. We didn't really learn much, and I didn't do very well in critical thinking. I was just looking at my results the other day, and I did 4 modules, 2 AS, 2 A2. First module I got a D, second module I got a B, third module I got a C, and the fourth module I got a B. So that probably would have averaged out at maybe a C, which was obviously not great, and I thought that would look a bit weird and suspicious next to my other grades. My other AS results were A for maths, A for further maths, A for physics, A for computing, and a B for philosophy and ethics. And the B already was like, oh well, it's good obviously, but not perfect. But I thought it would look okay, because obviously philosophy and ethics was not going to be one of my main choices, and it was a 5th A level or AS level. But then critical thinking, I thought C for critical thinking, with the D in one of the modules, they're going to be like, what's happened to this guy? Why can't he do well in every subject? So I didn't have that aggregated, and that means I never got the qualification. So I don't have an A level in critical thinking, even though I did all the exams. So Cambridge never found out about that one. But critical thinking did come in kind of useful. I'll talk about that a bit later. Okay, let's answer some of these questions from Twitter at least. What have we got? How much free time versus lectures and staff? I don't know, we get 3 lectures a day, plus about 4 or 5 supervisions a week, plus a few other things. Then the rest of your time is free time, but you spend most of it just doing some sort of work anyway. What was my favourite GCSE? Music, probably. I really like GCSE music. Do privately educated people at Cambridge look down on you? I don't think so. Hello, Ben. What do you think about Code Academy for beginning to learn a language? I've never used Code Academy. Some people love it. I guess if it works for you, then great. You just have to find that out yourself, I think. I don't really have an opinion about Code Academy because I haven't experienced it. How do you get the tweets on your stream? It's with a program called Boinx TV. Boinx TV. What are the white tie balls like at Cambridge? They are amazing. You visit Turkey. What's your opinion? You like it? Yeah, Turkey was lovely. On a scale of Miley Cyrus to 10, how exciting is university life? How is that a scale? That's not a scale. This tweet here. 6? Okay. I'll come back to tweets in a moment. So, that was GCSEs, first year of A Levels. So I got my results, chose not to have critical thinking aggregated. Then I was going to shortly be applying to Cambridge. Now at this point I still wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to apply to Cambridge over Oxford, because of course, as you all probably know, you can only apply to one, not both of them, which is really irritating from an applicant's point of view. But I went on a summer school to both of them. Now the first one I did was an Oxford summer school. I'd applied for these months in advance. I heard about them through school, I think. The Oxford one was the Unique Summer School, UNIQ. I should have probably checked it to see if they're still doing this. But that was a week in Oxford, or 5 days, studying a subject of your choice. And it was really great. I had such a good time on the Oxford Summer School. I wish I had videos or something from it, but it was quite an intense week actually. They gave us a good taste of what university life is like. They tried to teach us Haskell in 5 days, which is a functional programming language that they teach at Oxford. Cambridge do ML, which is similar. And they gave us lectures every day, and then practical classes, and then homework to do. But apart from all of this, there were loads of other activities going on. I saw plays, and I went to museums, and I saw loads of colleges. I had loads of really nice meals. I met loads of really great people, and I really loved the week. So if you can do a summer school at Oxford or Cambridge, I really recommend applying. And then the Cambridge one, it was Sutton Trust summer school. The Sutton Trust is an organisation that I think they do summer schools at a range of universities around the country. One of them was at Cambridge, so I applied for that one. And I got into that one. I was over the moon that I managed to go to both. And that one was really good as well. It was less academic, I found, that summer school. More free time, more fun things. I've got to say, Oxford did a better job of organising their summer school. theirs I think overall was better because everything was more planned and more structured, and we always had something to do. But despite that, I still prefer. I loved the city of Cambridge. I preferred the place. I could see myself being happier studying there. And for computer science, I think Cambridge is better. Sorry, Oxford. They take more computer scientists each year, and they've got a newer computer science lab, which is really nice. And I just got a better impression from computer science at Cambridge. I also went to both open days, and decided there that I also liked Cambridge a little bit more. But it was close, it was tough. I would have obviously applied to both if I could. I would have taken an offer from Oxford if I got one, and not from Cambridge. But I prefer Cambridge. I applied there. That's where I've ended up. So the summer schools were really great, and it just made me want to study there even more. A few months later, once I was in the second year of sixth form, I got another chance to go to Cambridge. The same thing that I did a few years earlier, the one night organised through school, through Aim Higher. So I spent another night in Jesus College. That was great. Went with a few other people from sixth form who were also applying to Cambridge. And again, really loved the place. And definitely decided that I wanted to apply there. So that's when I was then applying at this point. This was the time I had to submit my application. So I had personal statement to write. I started my personal statement before summer, like finish year 12, finish all of my AS exams, then I started my personal statement. Got some, I think I had like a very rough first draft done before summer, so I could get some, ask teachers questions and get some first feedback. Then I spent the summer working on it, not like all of the time obviously, because I was doing other things. But it was a long process to make sure that I got it just perfect the way that I wanted it. So I spent a long time on my personal statement, because it is difficult to write a personal statement, and obviously the interviewers are going to get hundreds and hundreds of these, and they're all going to be very similar, so yours really has to try to stand out, and just read really nicely when they're scanning through these, probably quite quickly, in a lot of cases when they've got lots to look through. Yours just has to be nice to read and give a good impression without requiring too much work on the reader's side. So it's important just to make sure you have a good personal statement, a strong personal statement that is very well written. So I got that done. Eventually I was happy with it. I think the rest of the application is fairly easy. With Cambridge, you also have to do the SAQ, the Supplementary Application Questionnaire. This is just to get a bit more information about you. Most of it just tells you what to give it. I think there's an extra information bit at the end, which I had no idea what I was meant to write in that, if anything. And to be honest, I still don't. I can't remember what I did write, actually. I think I complained about how we didn't get enough teaching for the ethics module in ASRE, to try to justify my B in that, because we did only get taught it for like 3 weeks, something stupid like that. So I mentioned that, and I think I said, I was like, oh, I really love the Cambridge supervision system. I think I would benefit greatly from that. I don't know if that helped my application or not, really. I never found out. So good luck with that. I don't know what you should write. I don't know how much it matters. And as for my personal statement, just to give you some more information about what I put in it, I started by just talking about my passion for computer science and how I was inspired by some algorithm. It sounds stupid to me to read now. I talked about an IRC channel that I used to have, for those of you who don't know. I used to stream a lot and had an IRC channel to go with it, like a chat room, called #, and I spent loads of time in doing that, and I mentioned that in my personal statement. And I mentioned how I'd written some bots, like chat bots for the IRC channel, and then I linked that into artificial intelligence and linked that into the video game that I made, the Guns of Sidat City, which you can play actually. It's on the internet somewhere, you can find it on my website. 5 years ago today I finished that game actually, but I mentioned that in my personal statement. I mentioned Community Pi. You can also find a link to this on my website. By the way, don't use Community Pi, it's very out of date, it needs a lot of work before it's in a usable state, but it's an open source social networking platform that I built with some other people that I met through IRC actually. It all linked very nicely in my personal statement. So I mentioned Community Pi. I mentioned work experience. A few years earlier we had to do work experience at school that we had to find somewhere, and I knew somebody who worked in a software development company that do software development and IT, like tech support for companies. So I went and worked there for, it was just a week or two in year 10, and I really enjoyed it there. I obviously wasn't too bad, but was the back class some of the I was like, hey, remember me? I really enjoyed work experience. I've got the summer off now, anything I can come and do, and they let me go in. I wasn't employed or anything, so it was just like extra work experience. Did a few little internal projects. It was fun. Then the year after, I think it was in between the summer schools that I was doing, I was also working there again, and I was doing proper work that time. I wrote some software that was then used by Notting Hill Housing Association and by then a slightly different but similar piece of software for Guinness South, which is some sort of construction company. They're quite big. So that was really cool that I was writing the software. I don't think they ever found out that a 16-year-old did the work. But I did a good job, I think. Anyway, so I wrote about that in my personal statement. I wrote about the summer schools that I'd been on. Mainly focused on the Cambridge Summer School. Now this was tricky because obviously my personal statement was going to be used for my application to every other university, because I also applied to Edinburgh, Durham, Nottingham and York. So I needed to make it fit with these... Oh, what's happening with the audio? People are complaining. So many problems with the stream. I mean, it looks fine on my end, I can't hear it. Audio is exploding apparently. It's fixed. I didn't touch anything. I'm sorry. Oh. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk about the last few things I mentioned in my personal statement again. So, I don't know, I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to the comments. I'm not sure when audio broke. I wrote about Community Pi. I wrote about work experience at a software development company, and about the projects that I worked on while I was there. I wrote about the summer schools that I went on, but that was difficult because I mainly focused on the Cambridge one, obviously because I was applying to Cambridge, but I was also applying to Edinburgh, Nottingham, Durham and York. So it needed to not be too focused on Cambridge, because these other guys would have been like, well, he doesn't want to come here, he wants to go to Cambridge. So that was kind of tricky. But I did mention the Cambridge Summer School anyway. I think I mentioned the Oxford one as well. I mentioned a book on Colossus that I read. I was going to say wrote there, I didn't write it. I read it. On the Oxford Summer School, we all got given some free books, and they were on cryptography because I think they covered it a little bit in the summer school. They taught us some stuff about cryptography. So since I got them for free, I read one of them, and then I wrote about, well, I planned to read it, and I wrote about it on my personal statement. I never actually finished reading it. It was really bad. and luckily they didn't ask me about it in my interview, which I was really glad about. I read most of it, but it was a really boring book. I'm not going to recommend it. Then I wrote about being a part of student voice at school and helping students to have more say in how they're taught, charity work that I'd done, and I wrote about how I was head boy at my secondary school. So that made up my personal statement. That, I think, is one of the harder parts of the UCAS application. I'm going to take a very short break now. I'll be back in a couple of minutes and I'll be talking about the rest of my A Levels, what I did then, my interviews, thinking skills assessment, and all of that stuff. So I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. I need to make that little break a bit longer. That's not long enough for me. Okay. Sorry again about the audio. How many people have we got watching? 71. Made 71 people deaf. Let's take a look at some of the tweets that I've been ignoring. Tips for starting GCSEs. Work hard from the beginning. Don't think that you can just leave stuff till close to the exams, because you don't want to end up doing resits and giving yourself more pressure. Video on how to write a personal statement. I'll try to get one done eventually. I'm not really sure what to say in a video like that. What's your favourite pub/nightclub/restaurant in Cambridge? I don't really have a favourite pub. They're all pretty similar, I think. Favourite nightclub? There's not much choice. My favourite is actually Revolution, because they have, like, it's a nice club. It's designed nicely. It's not just a sweaty, dark room. Nobody else seems to like it there, though. I never understood why. It is quite expensive as well, that's a problem. Favourite restaurant? GBK, maybe. Gourmet Burger Kitchen. They have a lot of those around the country. They're really nice. If you've never been, go to GBK. Yeah, I know it says Sunday night, and I'm not doing it on Sunday night. I just wanted to give other people who would usually in bed a chance to watch the stream. And I just didn't change the title, and Sunday afternoon with Jake Wright doesn't rhyme. I like the cheesiness of Sunday night with Jake Wright. I got 5A, 1B at AS with 92 average, but the B coming in the subject I want to do. Oh dear. I'm getting a remark remark as I'm close to an A. Any hope? They're very good results. You'd still have like a really good chance of getting into somewhere like Cambridge, I think, with those. With 5 A's, and I got that's a lot of A's to get at AS, and that's a decent UMS average. So it depends on the subject and the rest of your application. This is the thing. Lots of people, they want like a yes or no answer, like can I apply to Cambridge with these results, or with this number of UCAS points will I get in? Nobody knows, because it's not like you don't get tested on every part of the application individually. Everything is looked at as one big whole application. So one person might not get in because their results weren't good enough, but it's not just because of that alone, because somebody else might get in and their results were the same. It's just because the rest of their application, overall their application was better. It's an overall thing that they look at. It's not a series of individual hurdles that you have to make it over. Which means you can't get yes or no answers to these questions, because it doesn't make sense to answer it like that when I don't know the rest of the information about you that the interviewers are going to learn from the rest of your personal statement and the SAQ and any other tests that you have to do, stuff like that. And the reference and your predicted grades, everything matters. One thing alone is not going to let you down, unless of course your AS results were like D, D, E, U, then that would probably let you down. But when you're getting like A's, B's, and you're not sure whether that B is going to make or break your application, that alone won't. I think it's important to remember that. And hopefully that thinking like that and knowing that should hopefully take the pressure off the interviews a little bit, because the interviews alone, it's not like a final step that you have to make it over. You can't like do brilliantly so far but then fail the interview stage. It doesn't work like that. They just take the interviews and add it to everything else that they know about you, and then make an overall decision based on everything they've seen. So that's how it works, just to clear that up. And something else that I want to talk to you about, you guys all ask me so many questions, I can't answer them all because I have things to do myself. I just get too many to give everyone good answers. So an alternative, if you want to ask a student a question, I have a friend at Jesus College, and they have, this guy's called Aiden, and I was talking to him yesterday. I've put a link and an email address in the description for this stream. For Ask a Student at jesus.cam.ac.uk, and this is a way for you to ask a student a question about Cambridge, I guess more specifically about Jesus, rather than like an official university email address. Also, the Cambridge University Students' Union has a similar scheme set up, so you can go and get your question directed to a student who can help through the page that I've linked to there. So if I can't help you, or I don't get back to you very quickly, go there. You might get a quicker and better response than you could from me. Did I take STEP? No, I didn't do STEP at all. Queen's didn't make me. That was one of the reasons why I chose Queen's, because I didn't have to do STEP for computer science. Are there any things you'll change about Cambridge? I would love to change so many things about Cambridge. Like get some decent lecturers for computer science. Anyway, got 20 minutes left. Back to the rest of my story about getting in. So, where was I up to? Second year of A Levels. I didn't drop any, except philosophy and ethics, because that was not really one that I chose in the first place. So I still did maths, further maths, physics and computing. So I did 4 A2s. And you don't have to, I mean, they only expected to do 3, but I enjoyed them all. I didn't want to drop any. That was literally the reason why I kept doing them all. Because I couldn't drop maths. If I was going to drop any, it would have had to be in computing, really. Because that was the least useful to get into Cambridge, I think. And they wanted maths and further maths. Physics is just... It's a harder subject than computing. And they look on it more favourably. So it left me with the option to drop computing if I wanted to, but I just didn't want to. I liked the subject, so I kept doing it. So I did 4 A levels. I got an A star in all 4, which is obviously higher than I needed. My offer was A star AA. Anyway, I had interviews and stuff before there, so I'd applied to Cambridge and I got invited down for an interview. That was obviously exciting and very scary at the same time. I went down to Cambridge by myself on the train for the interviews, and I stayed in Queens overnight. I thought if I go down myself and rather than just being taken by my parents and dropped off, I'd be less nervous when I got into the room, because it was kind of a bit scary going to Cambridge and finding the college myself and staying there by myself, and it made the scary interview seem a little bit easier. That was my theory anyway. I don't know whether it worked. So I had 2 interviews, and then in between I did the thinking skills assessment. Now this is where critical thinking really came in useful, even though I basically I almost failed a couple of the modules and didn't have it aggregated, and Cambridge never found out about it. Some of the skills that I learnt in critical thinking came in really useful for doing the thinking skills assessment at Cambridge. So I was glad that I did that. Daniel Skies, you can ask questions anywhere, but I want to tell a story instead of answering a lot of these questions, because I've answered lots of these before. I'm sorry about that. Anyway. So critical thinking was useful for the TSA. If you're going to do the TSA, I would recommend reading something about critical thinking, because it did really help me. My interviews, I thought they'd gone badly, as everybody does. My first one was quite a general interview, just mainly talking about my personal statement. Talked about community pie. Talked about how I organise my time. This was the interview with Andy Rice. He is my director of studies at Queen's. You can, if you watch my videos about the supervision, about the interview that I did recently, he is the guy in those. So he gave me one of my first real interview was with him, and with a lady called Paula Buttery. And the interview was not what I expected. I expected it to be more difficult. That one I found it wasn't an academic interview. I didn't have to work things out, so that was kind of nice. So I came out of it and I was like, I felt like that should have been harder. Maybe I must have done badly. Then my second one was harder. That was the academic maths based one. I think I'm allowed to tell you what I got asked in my interviews. I got a few kind of warm up questions. I got a question which was something like, how do you divide a clock face into 3 sections so that the numbers in each section add up to the same thing? I'm not sure if it was 3 sections, something like that. I don't know if that works out mathematically. But I did that. The main part of the main question was focused on binary search. If I'm gonna suggest you prepare anything for the interviews, it would be sorting and searching algorithms and other very stereotypical Chomsky things like that. I think they come up a lot. So the question was about working through what the algorithm for binary search and then deriving the efficiency for it. So I got through that with some help. I think I obviously did okay. But at the time, I didn't think it was going well. I was really nervous. I was terrified. I'd just done the thinking skills assessment, and I didn't really know how that had gone either. Even though I'd been helped by my knowledge from critical thinking, I was like, well, maybe it's gone well, but maybe I've done everything wrong, because some of the questions are quite weird. You can do like a practice one on the website so you can get an idea about what it is like. What's diversity like at Queen's and Cambridge on a whole? There's loads of diversity, more than you could imagine, which is pretty good. Is it helpful to know / mention any current computer science students at Cambridge when applying? I don't think so. I mean, it might be helpful to know some to get some tips from them, but it wouldn't be helpful to mention them. You're not going to get in because you know somebody. So I wouldn't do that. So there were my interviews and the thinking skills assessment. I got an offer a couple of months later. I remember I was out the morning that the letter came, and I got home, the letter was there, my parents were waiting for me to open it. I was so scared opening the letter because I didn't know what it was going to say, and it told me that I had an offer and I had to get A star AA in my A levels, but the A star could not be in maths. It had to be in further maths, physics or computing, so they made the standard offer a little bit harder for me. But I was like so happy that I got the offer. I hated telling people that I had an offer from Cambridge, because then people were like, oh, he's going to Cambridge and let's tell everybody. But I still need to get my results, so I was a bit scared about that, but obviously I did. With 4 A stars, I exceeded my results. People have told me that the average UMS for a successful Cambridge applicant is 95. I still don't know if that's true. I need to find that out. But I think mine was 95. If yours is less than that, I wouldn't panic. I'm sure lots of people get into Cambridge with average UMS lower than 95. But I don't have any statistics on this, I'm afraid. So then I did a lot of work to get those A stars. I didn't do much else with my life after I got my offer in, what was it, like January you get the offers, and then it was just from there revision non-stop until my exams. It paid off. People often ask me like when they should start revising. You should start revising like as soon as you learn something. You can't properly learn content if you don't keep refreshing it in your brain. This is something that Dr. Rice is always telling us at Queen's. You need to refresh your memory for things to stay there. What was my favourite A level? I don't know. I loved them all actually. I really enjoyed A levels. This is why I didn't drop any. I don't know, but I really enjoyed maths lessons because I loved my teacher. I loved the class I was in. I enjoyed computing because I enjoyed the subject, since that was largely what I wanted to study at university. Computing is obviously not the same as computer science. It's kind of different, but still it's very similar. I love my physics teacher, I really enjoyed physics. And further maths, yeah, I love that too. I enjoyed the modules. I really liked mechanics 1 and 2. Mechanics 3 got a bit too hard for me. So I don't know what my favourite was. All of them. Any more tweets that I can answer? Oh, I just realised I forgot to put the tweets back in the stream. I apologise for that. Haven't had many new ones anyway. I need an assistant for streaming. Someone who can make sure the audio doesn't explode. And make sure the tweets are in the stream. I think that about covers like my whole story for getting into Cambridge. After that, I got my results. Made my offer, obviously, that was great. And then I got some work to do from Cambridge to do over summer. It was maths, and that was really annoying. I wanted to enjoy the summer, and I got a ton of work from them to do. But at the same time, it helped me to like be a little bit more prepared for going there, so I didn't forget everything that I learned at A Level. So I had to do that. There's a reading list. There's always a reading list for every subject. They told us to read the New Turin Omnibus. I bought it. I read a little bit of it, didn't understand any, then gave up. Turned out nobody read it. So, for computer science, I don't think you really need to worry too much about the reading list. I feel like they have a reading list just for the sake of having a reading list. Every other subject has a reading list, and they're like, we should have one. So, I tried reading that, but I found it was too complicated for somebody who didn't have a degree in computer science. Soon I will have a degree in computer science, though. This time next year I should have, and as long as nothing catastrophic happens in the next year. Then I need to figure out what I want to do with my degree in computer science. I still have no plans, really. Are there many females studying ComSci at Cambridge? Oh, I think that Twitter's broken in the stream. This happened when I was trying to test it a while ago. It's kind of annoying. I feel like there's a bug with Boinks TV. We'll see if that ever appears. But Haley B asks, are there many female ComScis? About 10%, I think, roughly. Which, for computer science at Cambridge, I think is good. Obviously could be a lot better. How do you motivate yourself? Asks 85561666041. With exams and the fear of failing them. This is probably my biggest motivation. I do procrastinate loads and get distracted really easily. It's a big problem that I have. I'm not immune to this problem that most people experience. I'm really bad for it. I just have to force myself to work. Sometimes I really struggle. I try to remember why I'm doing it and think like, well, revise today. It's like one day out of the rest of my life, and I'll only regret it if I don't revise. But it is difficult, I know. I think if I didn't have exams, I would find it really hard to be motivated for my degree, especially with all the work that I find difficult and boring. So I like exams for that reason, because it keeps me working hard, because obviously exams are really important. I've been brought up in this society where like exams are the most important thing every year. Whether that's a good attitude or not is debatable. Probably not, to be honest, but it for me it works. It keeps me working hard. What happens if you don't hand in supervision work on time? I answered this in my video about supervisions, I think. Essentially nothing, because it's just your own problem if you don't do the work. And you have a really awkward supervision where you don't know what's happening. So that's why everybody does the work. If you repeatedly don't do the work, you probably end up in a meeting with your director of studies. This doesn't happen to anyone because everyone there is like 18, 19, 20, 21 and mature, and there because they've worked hard their whole life. They're not going to suddenly turn into this rebellious student who doesn't do their supervision work. I mean, we're there to learn and work hard and do well and get a good degree. So it would be stupid of you not to do the work. I just can't imagine why anybody wouldn't do that. If you don't know, you upset the supervisor and your director of studies, and then you just miss out on learning stuff for that supervision, and then overall it ends up just having a really negative effect on you. But there's no like immediate punishment for not doing supervision work. I think more people watch the stream later on. I'll have to try another different time next week. I think the tweets have definitely broken. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I'll contact Boinks and ask them why it has this problem. I thought I'd be able to talk for the whole hour about my story of getting into Cambridge. I've run out of things to say. But hopefully people have been asking to just hear about this for a long time. Hopefully I've covered everything you wanted to know. And hopefully people will stop asking me so much, like what I did at GCSE and what I did at A Level, what my interviews were like. I'd say a bit more about my interviews, but I really can't remember them in too much detail. And I could tell you, like, I could explain more the questions that I got about the clock and about the binary search. I can't remember any others that I got asked. I think I got asked one or two more, just kind of warm-up questions, but I've forgotten what they were. It is very unlikely that you get the same questions though, and if you apply to Queen's you're not going to get the same questions. As for preparing for interviews, people worry about this, and when I went for my interviews it was full of people the same age as me waiting for their interview in a suit with like a briefcase full of stuff that they're trying to learn. I didn't take work with me to Queen's when I went for my interview. I didn't wear a suit. I wore a shirt and some black jeans. I just tried to relax the day of my interview rather than revising stuff, because I was like, there's so much they could ask me about. And they try to ask you about stuff that you haven't covered before, so you can't learn. Like, if you already know the answer to the question, you're doing something wrong. Well, it means you've made the interview is not designed for that to happen. If you already know the answer to the question, they'll ask you a different question. So to try to like learn everything you can about computer science and about maths is kind of not going to help, because they'll just find something that you don't know and ask you about that, because they want to see how you work new things out and approach a new problem. They do expect you to know everything that you've covered at A Level so far. They'll build upon that knowledge, so it is useful to look over stuff that you've covered so far, and useful to remind yourself of what you wrote in your personal statement, because you'll be expected to elaborate on some points. So you just want to know what you wrote. That helps. But I didn't really prepare too much for my interview. I just had the attitude of, well, as long as I know everything that I'm doing at A Level, and I have like a bunch of stuff that I can use to show that I have a passion for computer science, like work experience and other projects I've done, like Community Pi and Sid as City, I thought I'd be okay. They'll hopefully see that I'm passionate about computer science and fairly good at the subject, and I think they did. So I didn't want to panic and stress myself out too much on the day of the interview by sitting trying to learn a ton of stuff. I also didn't research the interviewers at all. Turns out lots of people do that. I'd had no idea who my interviewers were. It's not a test to see how well you know them. That didn't put me at any sort of disadvantage. Okay, 1 o'clock. That is how I got into Cambridge. I hope you've enjoyed my little story. And I hope this time has been a little bit better for some people. Lunchtime. Particularly for those in like Australia, if anyone. I think one person from Australia, maybe. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching. Been another good stream. I'm not sure what time I'm going to be doing it next week, but follow me on Twitter, Wright UK, and I'll post updates there. Thank you very much. Goodbye.